Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. And yeah, it's Beyonce, cause it's Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. So yeah, Beyonce album bomb. Shouldn't have to say more, and indeed it's probably going to wind up a shorter episode because I've already reviewed the album at length and then was subsumed into the frustrating waves of discourse around it. But you know what? It's the story this week. No way around that. And that means we have to start off in our top 10, and as I predicted, Break My Soul by Beyonce took the number 1. Interestingly enough, I would chalk this up to the streaming surge with the album bomb to back up the radio more than anything, and that leaves me wondering how much this might persist into the next week, cause it's not like About Damn Time by Lizzo is slowing down at number 2. It took a dip on streaming, but the radio margin is robust and stable. She's ruling over there. Hell, look to As It Was by Harry Styles at number 3, where it looks like it's also about done on the radio, but with better streaming, it's very stable. And let's not discount Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush at number 4, where the streaming only took a dip compared to the rest of the album bomb. The sales are still rock solid, and the radio run is still in full force. Then we got Wait For You by future Tems and Drake holding position at number 5. Solid radio and streaming will keep you there, even as First Class by Jack Harlow slips to number 6 despite better radio, but this is what happens when your streaming's gonna implode. But then we got the expected new arrival to the top 10, arriving on enormous streaming, Bad Habit by Steve Lacy at number 7. Interestingly, it does have some radio, but it's taking its time getting there. So while this might have a ceiling for now, I can see this maybe picking up some penetration, especially if the streaming remains good. Then we got Mi Porto Bonito by Bad Bunny and Chencho Corleone at number 8, pretty much just on the streaming. But then we got our second breakthrough to the top 10, predominantly on the radio, Sunroof by Nicki Yor and Daisy at number 9. Now this one is so well backed, I do not see it falling off anytime soon, especially given how breezy and summer equipped it is. So we'll have to see how well it'll hold up against better competition. Speaking of which, Late Night Talking by Harry Styles holds at number 10 thanks to better radio, although that might not be enough going forward. Just saying that now. Now this takes us to our losers and dropouts, and we got a couple big ones in the latter category. An album bomb that hits this high will knock out some pretty big long-running hits, with both Silent Hill by Kendrick Lamar and Kodak Black and Right On by Lil Baby likely falling short of the year-end list for 2022, and those clinching it: What Happened to Virgil by Lil Durk featuring Gunna, Sweetest Pie by Megan Thee Stallion and Dua Lipa, Woman by Doja Cat, That's What I Want by Lil Nas X, Enemy by Imagine Dragons and JID, and Boyfriend by Dove Cameron. Wait a second, most of those songs aren't any good. I should not be complaining about this. And that will take us to our losers, where there's actually not quite as many as I was expecting. I mean, no surprise, Best Thing Since Back Roads by Jake Owen lost its gains to 98, and continuing to lose, we got Massive by Drake at 95, and Two Step by Ed Sheeran featuring Lil Baby at 94. Then we got the country losses: Ghost Story by Carrie Underwood at 91, Whiskey on You by Nate Smith at 81, Wishful Drinking by Ingrid Andress and Sam Hunt at 71, and unfortunately Damn Straight by Scotty McCreery at 52. It just needs a few more weeks of traction. Let's just pray it gets it. And to round things out, 1,000 Miles by Kid Laroi at 90, Hotel Lobby, Unk and Few by Quavo and Takeoff at 87, Puffin' on Zooties by Future at 79, Cooped Up by Post Malone and Roddy Ricch at 73, Left and Right by Charlie Puth featuring Jungkook at 57, and Provenza by Karol G at 44. But now on to our gains and returns, and we got one of each, both in the relatively insulated ecosystem of mainstream country, with Pick Me Up by Gabby Barrett back at 88, and 5'9" by Tyler Hubbard at 38. It's going to be interesting to see what sort of pickups they get when the album bomb fades back a bit, but speaking of which, we have more than 12 new songs from Beyonce with Renaissance, which means I'm obligated to cover the top 20 and the best or worst of the week. So that leaves us with America Has a Problem at 69, Nice. Pure Honey at 64, Move with Grace Jones and Tems at 55, Thick at 53, Heated at 51, Summer Renaissance at 47, Virgo's Groove at 43, Plastic Off the Sofa at 41, Cozy at 30, Energy with Beam at 27, and I'm That Girl at 26. But now on to a much more reasonable list of new arrivals. Again, if you want to hear me talk about the songs, go check out the review. But let's start with number 89, Dahdah, Dahdah by Nardo, Wick.
Try to understand me, please don't judge me if you ain't never seen the bottom.
So Nardo Wick put out the deluxe edition of his new album, and this was apparently the song that got the most traction off of it, likely probably most thanks to that haggard interpolation of the melody of Tom's Diner, and that's already happened once this year. Now, I won't deny there's a certain amount of menace built off the minor key pianos, the shuddering bass, and the fizzy trap percussion in Nardo Wick's Deadpan, but he also clumsily rambles through the gunplay, especially on the second verse, and it comes across as more sloppy than it should. If anything, it comes across like a low-rent 21 Savage, a lot more reliant on the samples than great production, delivery, or content. So no, don't really care. Can't really endorse this. Number 83, Victoria's Secret by Jax. Okay, this is gonna be a little strange. For those of you who might not remember, Jax was on American Idol in its 14th season, finishing 3rd. Now, normally this would be where her story would end, but she kept putting out music. An EP in 2017 and a record deal in 2021, alongside some TikTok traction, got this as the best-selling song this week. And okay, I want to tread carefully around the track because I do respect where it's coming from, highlighting that Victoria's Secret as a brand was built to manufacture insecurity in women about their bodies and then sell them shit. All to benefit a rich old male billionaire from Ohio, and there's a sense of relieved anger that she doesn't have to buy into this crap anymore. So naturally, on a song about attacking advertising, you hammer the name of that brand everywhere for your big hook. And yes, the Victoria's Secret brand is decades of toxic bullshit around it and the billionaire that once owned it. A lot of it actually tied into Jeffrey Epstein. And I get how the song is purposefully narrow on Jax's relationship with this brand rather than body positivity as a whole, but it feels weirdly restricted in its scope as a result, and without a distinctive bridge to drive it home as a thesis statement, the song kind of feels limited. I also think the larger problem is that the song kind of sounds terrible. Jax's vocals remind me way too much of Julia Michaels by way of BB Rexa, which is painfully shrill against the flattened guitar leads with no muscle, the limp bass, and the blur of trap percussion and live drums. It feels as overproduced as the Photoshop she rails against, just about as plastic. I mean, Jax's intentions are good here, but by God, I don't ever want to hear this again. Number 70, All Up in Your Mind by Beyonce.
I tried to get all up in your mind. I'm going through the time if it means I'll make you mine.
Hey look, Beyonce made a hyperpop song with A.G. Cook, and it's one of the most forward-thinking electronic moments on the entire album, and funnily enough, easily one of my favorites. The curdled, gurgling synth spiking off her minor key vocals as she picks up a raspier edge against the drippy trap side. With every pitch-shifted vocal overdub, the song swirls and builds up some of that implacable edge, but with a lot better mixing and mastering than most hyperpop often has. Yeah, conceptually it's just hungry and lustful and getting to this guy, but there's this darker edge that Beyonce sells really well. Compared to so many sex songs where she sounds checked out or imperious, above it all, she actually sounds invested. That goes a long way for me. So yeah, it might not be the favorite of many, but I think this is really damn good. Deep cut, check it out. Number 50, Never Sleep by Nav, Travis Scott, and Lil Baby.
West Sunday, we gotta retreat. Straight from London, she out in the east. Let her shop and she keep the receipts. Don't you tell them you got it for me. After this, I'ma need therapy.
So apparently we were supposed to get a Nav album around the same time as Beyonce's release, and he wisely pushed back because, come on, that would have been asking for disaster. But we did get a single, and I feel like I've heard this exact same track from these guys so many times now. It's a song that wants to start at the very top and then look down on everyone, and it falls apart at the edges pretty quickly as a result, with a weirdly petty edge slipping into the back half of Travis Scott's Hedonism, Lil Baby probably having the tightest flow here, but the verse feeling like a lot of filler, and Nav remaining one of the most pointless MCs to get on a mic. I could be annoyed at him trying to make the P a thing again when the meme's been dead for months, or how his flexing remains boring as hell despite a decent flow change-up by the end. But what I think's most notable is his assertion that if someone has a producer tag, he will take it off the song, then remake the beat himself. So why is Tay Keith's producer tag at the beginning of this song here? For that matter, why would he even admit to co-producing this? The klaxon clashing with what sounds like flutes against the overweight bass and trap percussion, up until the switch up in the outro at the very end, it gets annoying in record time. And that's about the only emotion I actually get from the song, along with the persistent migraine. In other words, it's not good. Next. Number 22, Church Girl by Beyonce.
Pop it like a thotty, pop it like a thotty. We say now drop it like a thotty, drop it like a thotty. Church girls acting loose, bad girl acting snotty.
I know it's controversial to say at this point where the Beyonce album actually started clicking for me in the track list, but I'm sorry, between the rattling bounce percussion blended with the gospel sample that Beyonce blends with a lot of southern swagger to both belt and rap, there's an overheated texture and flair that I actually really dig with this. Yeah, I'm laughing when she calls her boobs or tiggle bitties, but for a song this fun, I can imagine she's laughing too, especially as she careens through the whole Madonna whore complex and has both the bad girls and the church girls dropping it hard. And hey, there would be a time in my life where I would not have enjoyed this nearly as much. I might have even criticized it, but when Beyonce sounds like she's actually enjoying the vibe and the song's got a good hook, it's pretty infectious. Damn good song. I really like it. Number 19, Alien Superstar by Beyonce.
Feed you diamonds and pearls. Oh, baby, I'm too classy to be touched. I pick them all in dust. I'm stingy with my love. Oh, baby.
It would be the song that the Beehive loses their mind over and is spawning some viral challenges that I think is the worst on the album by a considerable margin. The rubbery synth off the clattering percussion and explosive effects before everything gets goopier and Beyonce actually starts to sing compared to the sing-rap vamping throughout the majority of the song, which in the later half tries to become more opulent with the layer vocals around Barbara Ann Teer's reading, and I'm sorry, none of this feels aspirational. I know to Beyonce's diehard audience, this is all very empowering, but when the second line of the song is, "Don't even waste your time trying to compete with me," it screams of an arrogance that doesn't feel alien or transcendent. If nobody can compete, where are the stakes for me to actually care? For as much as she calls out that this is unique and obscure because her drip and sex is mind-blowing, well, first off, I'm not sure I buy it, because this is the sort of thing that's all over R&B and house and has been for at least a decade now. But also because, if that's the case, why even call out the label whores? Doesn't seem very empowering or universal to me. As an alien superstar, why aren't you above that? What I find ironic is that with the "I'm too sexy" interpolation, Beyonce's just playing into the exact same late 80s fashionista scene that Right Said Fred were parodying, and ironically, Taylor Swift beat you to this 5 years ago. How is this unique or obscure again? It seems to clash a bit with Barbara Ann Teer's experience in theater, which was proudly black and was focused on capitalist ownership in Harlem, but also created more of a communal sense of liberation than this does. But then again, this is a fan favorite that so many find inspiring in its own way, so maybe it kind of works on the back end. So yeah, okay, I get why folks like it. I just sure as hell don't. And finally, number 13, Cuff It by Beyonce.
Spaceships fly. Unapologetic when we fuck up the night. Fuck up the night. We getting fucked up tonight.
I guess I'm not that surprised that outside of Break My Soul, this is the highest charted Beyonce song, mostly because it sounds the most like a older Beyonce song paired with a tight slice of bassy disco, courtesy of Raphael Sadiq on the bass and drums and Nile Rodgers on the guitar. Sounds like it could have come from 4. I mean, it's hard to screw up a dance groove with that much backing flair and production with the trumpet included, especially for a pretty loose dance and sex jam. And while I don't really care for Beyonce's falsetto on the hook, and the whole blocky bridge kind of grinds the groove to a halt in the transition for the next track. But you know what? For this sort of party jam, Beyonce made it work better than I expected, especially with all the heavy vocal overdubs, and when the content keeps it simple, yeah, I dig it. It's fun. I'd be happy if it stuck around. And yeah, that's our week. Yeah, you know what? Beyonce is getting both of the best here, but I think the edge is going to All Up in Your Mind with honorable mention to Church Girl. Now, worst of the week, it's tricky. I think Victoria's Secret by Jax is getting the dishonorable mention, especially with that production. But worst of the week is going to Alien Superstar by Beyonce. Look, I can acknowledge quality in songs that are not for me, but this one feels like it's only for Beyonce in its least interesting and attractive way possible, where everything that she's proclaiming feels like it's resting on laurels and impossibly high stacks of cash. Sorry, I can't relate. Next week, The Fallout, and that's gonna be interesting. Likely with a lot of Youngboy Never Broke Again, because it would be the fact he'd get an album coming. Stay tuned, maybe. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.